Hello, everyone. Thank you for this invitation to discuss what the G20 can do to foster sustainable infrastructure. This is Haifa Mogrin, Chair of Development Working Group under the Saudi Arabian presidency of the G20. Today, I will start by briefly reviewing recent work on infrastructure in G20 Development Working Group, a more detailed overview of the key dimensions of this year's G20 Development Working Group priority, quality infrastructure for regional connectivity, will follow. I will conclude by offering specific suggestions on how G20 actions can foster sustainable infrastructure, and in particular, in the context of this year's work in the Development Working Group. Given its importance, infrastructure has been a topic on the G20 agenda since G20 inception. In recent years, there has been a lot of work related to supporting infrastructure development, including in the Development Working Group since its inception in 2010. Very recently, we have seen such G20 initiatives such as Roadmap to Infrastructure as an Asset Class under Argentina presidency in 2018, and the G20 Principles for Quality Infrastructure in 2019 under the Japanese presidency. In addition, Build Resilient Infrastructure is goal number 9 of Sustainable Development Goals, as infrastructure is a key enabler for sustainable development. Thus, reaching this goal will affect almost every single other sustainable development goal. I would like to stress on the importance of infrastructure, as its development is a long-term and complex process. Most investment in infrastructure requires high upfront expenditure and faces uncertainty. Even well-planned infrastructure projects can become obsolete before being completed. Given the mandate of the Development Working Group to promote development, especially in low-income and developing countries, the Development Working Group in 2020 brought the discussion on quality infrastructure for regional connectivity. Why the interest in connectivity infrastructure? Connectivity is necessary to move goods, services, capital, knowledge, ideas, and of course people. It is necessary for specialization, which is necessary for productivity growth. It is also necessary for resilience, ability to move resources fast from one place to another to address emerging crises and enable rapid recovery such as today. Nonetheless, connectivity infrastructure development faces numerous challenges, such as it requires long-term financing due to the size and nature of connectivity infrastructure projects. These projects are typically large, complex, and have large fixed costs that must be financed before any income can be generated. In least income and developing countries, lack of connectivity infrastructure prerequisites slows connectivity infrastructure development. Yes, having a decent road to start with helps when we need to expand road transport capacity, then add a railway, then develop into smart roads. In addition, private sector involvement in infrastructure projects has been relatively low for several reasons. In this priority area, quality infrastructure for regional connectivity, we are bringing focus on 3 dimensions that we believe could enhance the infrastructure discussion, bringing attention to infrastructure development in low-income and developing countries. These dimensions are the importance of risk and return analysis, the role of proper demand and supply management, both short and long term, and the importance of regional and broader international cooperation. In assessing risk and return, connectivity infrastructure must be treated as an economic service to remain viable and thus sustainable. In addition, the selection of connectivity infrastructure projects should start with risk-return profiles and analysis. These profiles should include all life cycle costs and benefits, as well as risk assessment of different infrastructure investment options. This process helps the selection of quality projects that can attract suitable financing needed to ensure long-term economic viability of the selected projects. Furthermore, the project's resilience, ability to withstand shocks, such as from natural disasters, as well as their contribution to reducing risks in other parts of the economy, should be considered in the analysis. In addressing supply and demand, I would like to highlight the fact that the demand for connectivity infrastructure is not fixed. Therefore, private and public connectivity operators and policymakers should utilize effective tools to manage short-term demand and supply and influence long-term demand and supply for connectivity services. These tools include dynamic pricing, taxes and subsidies, zoning regulations, and others. For example, flexible starting and ending working hours, remote work arrangements, school holidays that spread over time can reduce demand for infrastructure. The supply side challenges are diverse. To address these challenges, collaboration at both local and regional levels among public entities, partnerships with the private sector is required to ensure competitive, efficient execution and financing of connectivity infrastructure projects and operation. The third dimension is regional and international cooperation, including within the G20. And it is worth mentioning that regional and broader international cooperation is critical for supporting connectivity infrastructure development and operation. This requires cooperation among governments and institutions across the region and among public and private sector entities. Moreover, bilateral and multilateral cooperation is necessary to bring compatible policies and reach agreement among all involved players in the connectivity market. International organizations and multilateral development banks could also help build and expand capacity in connectivity infrastructure in least income and developing countries, including by better coordinating their activities given each country's specific circumstances. By conducting case studies, they could help inform and develop regional connectivity policy tools. And finally, within the G20, we can foster sustainable infrastructure by sharing knowledge and experiences and promote best practices, address challenges such as debt sustainability, governance, transparency in bidding and operation of projects, and ways to tackle them. We can also influence international organizations, including multilateral development banks, as well as trans-border and transnational regulatory policies and agreements to support sustainable infrastructure and broader connectivity services. Thank you all again for inviting me today to address this issue, and thank you for being here to work together to make the world a better place, despite what is happening and what's going on. Please be safe and stay healthy. Thank you again.